Hello and welcome to this workshop on processing emotion. My name is Katrina Horn and I'm a life coach. And in case you don't know me, I'm very, very big on feeling all our emotions instead of trying to fix them, right? I'm going to talk to you today about how you can actually process your emotions, meaning that you can be with them instead of trying to fix them or run away from them or deny them. And I'm going to invite you also to think about what this would mean to you in your life if you were able to feel your feelings deeply. Maybe you've been through grief. Maybe you are struggling with lots of things in your life. And what I'm going to show you is that part of your struggle is that maybe you're not accepting your feelings fully. And I hope that you'll understand at the end of this workshop that you can't control your feelings. So there's no point in trying. You'll feel so much better if you allowed and trusted yourself to be with your feelings, knowing that you do not have to take action on them. So it's safe to feel your feelings, and you can let yourself off the hook and tell yourself that you don't have to act on them. So I hope you're with me on that. If you're here, then it's probably because you got an email from me. If not, well, I hope you'll be having access to the workbook underneath here. If you're here live, of course, you're more than welcome to ask me questions or comment at any time. I'm staying on after I've delivered the content of this workshop, so you might want to ask for some laser coaching for yourself after this workshop. Also, I'll be giving you the opportunity to take this further, meaning that if you really want to dive into your emotional well-being, then I can help you with that. So unless there are any questions here, I'll just go ahead and dive into our content. You don't actually need to be following along with the workbook because the workbook is more designed to be something you do after this workshop. So I'm going to give you a lot of information now, and then you need to hop off and practice. So if you're watching the replay of this, you can just pause me, actually. You can pause me and do your workbook at the same time, or any other way that you find most useful to you. So once you learn how to process your emotions, you'll no longer be running away from them, and they'll no longer be running your life. Because I'm going to talk about this later, but just think about how many emotions we have on a daily basis, right? And we can actually process them as we go along, or we can try to bottle them up. And when we bottle them up, it creates a lot of tension, and it can have us sort of avoiding them and running away from them and adopting a lot of behavior really to deal with the avoidance. So we can buffer with other things such as food, such as work or shopping, or any other sort of buffering behaviors that we tend to do. So that we can get away from our emotions, right? This is not something we need to judge in ourselves. It's just like ordinary human behavior. But once we learn how to be with our emotions, we don't have to be engaging in that behavior anymore. So the problem is that you believe you can't control your feelings, and you're right. You can't control your feelings. You believe your feelings are facts. And you're right. You can't deny that you're feeling what you're feeling. But the problem is that you make it mean something. So you make it mean that you're powerless, like in the grip of your feelings. You can't do anything. You make it believe that you have got no control. And it's true, you haven't got control over your feelings, but you could also make it mean that your feelings are happening to you. So it's something that you can do nothing about. It's just happening to you. And you can feel that you're the victim of your feelings. So you're having feelings, you don't know what to do with them. You feel you can't stop them, or so you run away from them, or you try to fix them, you try to make them go away. But if you're doing that, you're trying to control what you cannot control, what cannot be controlled. Feelings can't be controlled. So why am I talking about control? Because, well, that is something that you can choose to control, but trying to control what cannot be controlled leaves you feeling exhausted and discouraged, and a lot more feelings. And if you want to, if you're here live, you can share in the chat how it makes you feel, this tendency to just not want to look at your feelings or try to fix them. So by trying to fix them, I mean that you make yourself wrong for having a feeling. So if you're feeling sad, you could be making yourself wrong for feeling sad, and you could be trying to fix it, right? Maybe you are into positive psychology, and I am, but some people mistakenly believe that positive psychology is about feeling good all the time. And that is not true, right? Positive psychology is not about fixing your feelings. So there's no point in trying to make the sadness go away, the fear go away, the anger, the frustration, all of that. There's no point in trying to make it go away or making yourself wrong for feeling it. Think of all the things you're telling yourself you can't do because of a feeling like fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of rejection, or fear of what other people would think are just some of the very common ones. But you could also be preventing yourself from doing something or enjoying something because you don't want to feel the shame you associate with it, right? And you're trying to micromanage all of these things, and it's leaving you, frankly, exhausted. And that's not what we want. So when we can be with our feelings, well, then we can feel them and have that be okay, right? We don't want to feel sad all the time. We don't want to be angry all the time, or whatever it is, the feeling that we are running away from. But we can actually be with it and not make it mean that we're wrong, not make it mean we will always feel like that, not make it mean that we've done something wrong because we're feeling it. We can just feel it and have that be okay. So emotions are really just chemical reactions, right? When you feel a feeling, it's because of something that's happening in your brain, and it's making a chemical reaction that is coursing around your body, right? So you really can't do anything about that. You can just go ahead and feel what you're feeling, if you see what I mean. That you can't stop it. So it's chemistry, right? You're not trying to control your metabolism. You're not trying to control your heartbeat. You're not trying to control a lot of things that are happening in your body, whether you want to or not. And it's really the same with feelings. We can just allow them to be. And I think we can be safe if we can trust ourselves not to take action on them. So this is a big part. But what we're going to dive into now is how you can actually be sitting in your sitting chair. I was going to say settee. We said that in Britain, but a long time ago. I don't think we say that anymore. But you could be sitting in your comfy chair. You could be feeling anger. You could be feeling frustration. You could be feeling anything and not act on it. Do you see what I mean? So feeling the feeling won't damage anything inside of you. And because you feel the feeling once doesn't mean that it will become your everyday feeling. It is true, however, that the more we feel a feeling, the more we return to a feeling, the stronger the connections in the brain become for generating that feeling. So that's why we don't want to be coming back to the anger, coming back to the sadness, coming back to the disappointment all the time. But let's take something like disappointment and have a look at that, because I think I was told a lot as a child, don't get your hopes up. And I'm sure you've heard it too, right? Don't get your hopes up. We say that to children, don't get your hopes up. And why do we tell them that? We tell them that to protect them from the disappointment, right? I'm sure that's happened to you. Feel free to share if you want in the chat. If you've been told as a child or later, or you might even be telling yourself that right now, don't get your hopes up. But what's wrong with getting our hopes up if we are prepared to feel the disappointment? Like, I get my hopes up all the time because I love feeling excitement. I love feeling the joy ahead of time. I love feeling all of those exciting emotions. And I'm perfectly okay with feeling all those feelings. And then if what I'm hoping for doesn't come true, I'm perfectly prepared to feel the disappointment. Yeah. So Jodie says she was told, don't get your feelings up too high. Yeah. Don't get your hopes up, I think. Yeah. So think about that. Think about telling yourself, yeah, don't start hoping. Don't start being joyful because you might be wrong. But really, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it if we feel safe feeling the disappointment. So I think we have to sort of make an agreement with ourselves that I am willing to feel the disappointment. Like, let's say, hello, Carlotta. Lovely to see you here. Let's just imagine that you're looking forward to an event. Like, it could be perhaps a romantic meeting, like you could be having a second date with somebody, and you're allowing yourself to get your hopes up. You're starting to think, oh, maybe actually this is a good match for me. Maybe we could have something exciting going together. Maybe this is a person for me. Imagine that. Now, what's wrong with feeling good about that? What's wrong with getting excited over that? There really isn't anything wrong with it because, well, if it doesn't pan out the way you wanted it, if you have your hopes dashed, well, what if you could just be sitting down calmly in your comfy chair, feeling the disappointment and not making it mean anything? So in this example, for instance, we could make it mean, if this dating adventure didn't pan out the way you wanted it, we could make it mean that there was something wrong with us. We could make it mean that we were undesirable. We could make it mean a lot of things. But what if we didn't make it mean anything? What if we just thought about the disappointment as, oh, I'm feeling disappointment, and not ask ourselves any questions about it? Yeah. If you want to ask why, well, you could, but just don't use that why to try to fix your feelings, to try to make them go away. That is not useful. It's much more useful to be sitting there with your disappointment, with your dashed hopes, and being willing to just have those chemicals run around in your body. And those chemicals are only active for 1.5 minutes. So if you're willing to be sitting safely at home, feeling those emotions, well, then you're good, right? So when I say don't take any actions on them, it means, well, don't get up and ring that person and tell them off, don't get out of your comfy chair and start complaining or I don't know, whatever you could do in that situation, right? You don't have to take action on it, and you don't have to construct meaning either. It needn't mean anything. It could just mean that this person was not for you. It could just mean that was not meant to be. Could mean that it might happen later. Could mean a lot of things, right? So let's not try to do all this guesswork, because when you try to persuade yourself out of a feeling, which is what you're doing, isn't it? If you want it to go away, if you try to say, oh, this person was so ungenerous, or this person is mistaken because I'm really such a good match, or whatever you can find, it's just to try to make yourself feel better. And what if that was not really necessary? What if you didn't have to manipulate your own feelings like that? What if that was just not something you wanted to engage in? Imagine, what if you could just drop all of that and feel your feelings? So that's what I'm inviting you to do with my workbook. And you don't need to have access to it right now, because I'm going to share that with you. And let me just pull it up on the screen. What I really would love for you to do is to go back to the workbook later, or if you're on the replay, pause me as we go through it. So here it is. And I always try to make them look a little pretty. So I hope you agree with me. I took out a lot of pictures this time because some of you told me that you printed out, and it's really quite heavy on the printer to be printing out all those images. So here we go. If we start with my first exercise, it's really just getting to know your emotions. Well, let me just make a note, because there's something I want to say after this. I'm just making a note, excuse me. Getting to know your emotions, meaning that you can start feeling comfortable with them. But what you're really doing is that you're dropping from your mind into your body. Some of us have been conditioned into living life through our brains, through our minds, and we've forgotten that we are also body. And I'm a very fervent believer in living life with all our senses open. So that means I don't have to filter everything through my mind. So I want you to drop from your head into your body, and we are going to name the emotion you're feeling. And you could be feeling many emotions, but this would be ideal to do in a situation where you've got a feeling coming up and you can feel, oh, I want to stifle it, or I want to ignore it, or I want to fix it. Just try to name it. What is it? What is the feeling? Is it shame? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it, what is it? What is it you're trying to not feel? Just name it, give it a name. And then ask yourself, well, what does it look like? And that feeling could look like a big red ball. It could look like, I don't know, an ice drop. It could look like a knife. It could look like something sort of not with a precise shape. It could look shiny, right? Also have a feel into where in your body it's situated. Can you locate it? Is there a place in your body, in your chest, in your stomach, in your mind, on the top of your head, in your forehead? Where is it situated? And also you can ask yourself questions like, what color is it? What texture is it? Is it still, or is it moving? Or maybe you prefer to say, how does it vibrate? And just use your imagination. And many of my clients tell me, well, I'm just making this up, Katrina. And that's perfectly okay. Feel free to make it up, because you are describing a chemical reaction, right? How can you do that in words and images? It's all pretty much made up, really. But the reason you're doing it, the reason you're getting so precise is that you are persuading your mind to be with it. It's not closing off to it. You're spending time with it and you're getting familiar with it. And your subconscious is learning that it's safe to be with this emotion. So the more time you spend describing it, feeling it, talking to yourself about it, imagining it. So the color, it could be shifting in color, it could be vibrating, pulsating in green or yellow or whatever. It could be a spongy texture, sharp, a hard, a rocky texture. It could be moving about, it could be vibrating, pulsating, it could be still, it could be rock solid still somewhere in your body. And then once you have gotten on board with what the feeling is really like, describing it in great detail, spending time with it. And when I'm saying time, it could be 1 minute, it could be 4 minutes, it could be any time that you can allow yourself to focus on it. All that time you're educating your subconscious just to accept it, just to take it on, and not to start the fight or flight or freeze response, right? Opening up. So think about, I often tell my clients that think about describing this emotional feeling. I use feeling or emotion. For me, they mean the same in this instance. So think about describing what you're feeling to a small child of 5 years old. So if you are feeling anger, you don't want to frighten the child, do you? You want to give it a good impression of this is what anger feels like. So you're educating the child in some way, and the child is, of course, your subconscious. So you're telling it what it's like, but you don't want to frighten it. You want to keep very factual about it. So it's not, oh, it's this horrible thing, it's all red, it's all, no, not at all. You're just being very neutral about it, describing it so that you won't make the child afraid of it. You see what I mean? And as you're describing it, you're spending time with it, you're getting familiar with it. And then also pay a lot of attention to how it dissipates. So you've located the feeling somewhere in your body. Let's say it's in your stomach. You've located it there. And then just notice, well, how does it leave your body? When you're done with feeling the anger, the disappointment, the fear, the frustration, the panic, whatever it is, how does it leave your body? Does it evaporate? Does it melt? Does it just sort of blow out of your mind or go away through your feet, go into the soil, into the ground? How does it leave your body? So if you get really used to doing this, it's a little bit like learning how to play the piano. Like you can't do it once and then have it done. It's like this almost everyday practice of coming back to your feelings, or at least coming back to a feeling when you notice that you're running away from it. And you could notice that by noticing the buffering behavior you engage in. So if you find yourself watching 5 hours of Netflix, just ask yourself, well, maybe this would be a good time to go and do Katrina's exercise here, getting to know your emotion, right? Just spending 5 minutes on this regularly will make you really very emotionally literate. So we talk about granularity. So many of us have only got an idea of our emotions and being able to name them in big blocks like anger, sadness, but there are lots of extra granularity in here, and you can just Google emotions and find out a lot of other names of emotions so that you get extra literacy, if I can say it like that. And then you can actually practice feeling these emotions. So you could practice feeling sadness and be okay with it. But the upside to this is that you can also practice feeling gratitude. Let's just take gratitude, because you can do exactly the same exercise when you're feeling grateful. Do exactly the same. You name the emotion and you ask yourself, well, what does it look like? And I just got an image here of wings. I see those wings like white feathers. That's an image for me. What does it look like? Where in my body is it situated? And you just describe that to yourself. What color is it? Well, I just said white, but I can actually see a little bit of sort of yellowy colors or golden colors, perhaps. What texture? It's so soft and fluffy. Is it moving? Well, I can actually see it vibrate a little like that. So I'm being with an agreeable emotion. And just think what that does to your nervous system. If you could become so emotionally literate that you could sit down and feel gratitude anytime. This is possible, just to sit down and have that feeling, have your body command that feeling, because you've become so intimate with it. Can you see the scope of this? Can you see the emotional well-being that can lead you to? So what you could practice every day is being with one of the feelings you really would like to avoid. But practice being with it will make it less scary. And then you could also practice being with one of the feelings you really enjoy. So you've got 2 exercises here to do. You can make them long, you can make them short, right? And you can have it be perfectly safe if you do this in the privacy of your own home. And just tell yourself before you do the exercise, I promise myself to take no action upon feeling these feelings. Because I'm all for feeling our feelings, but before I take action, I just want to filter it through my intellect. So if I'm sitting with anger, I don't want to take action from anger. I want to be in a different place when I take anger. So I want to be feeling something different. Having recognized my anger, I want to move myself into a different feeling before I take action. So let's say I'm upset with somebody. I'm feeling very angry with somebody. Without emotional management, I could just be letting off steam with that person. I could be venting all my anger on this person who might be at fault, who might not be at fault. That is not my point, but I would be just venting my feelings, being very emotional, having an emotional reaction that I might end up regretting. And that is when I talk about safety. If I promise myself not to take any action on the anger I'm feeling, well, then I know that there could be no consequences. There can be no consequences because I'm not taking action. So I can be sitting here feeling angry, waiting for the anger to dissipate. Once it's dissipated, I could bring in feelings of love or perhaps compassion. And I find that compassion is such a useful feeling. It was the feeling that got me from really self-hatred into self-love. Feeling that compassion with myself and with others really is what allows me to feel happy most of the time in my life, right? I can always go into compassion. I really can. I've practiced that so much. So I wait till I'm in compassion, and from the compassion, I can ask myself, well, what action do I want to take? And can you see how my action is going to be completely different if I come from compassion? I'm not going to approach the person in the same way as if I'm coming directly from unprocessed anger. Do you see? And you might tell me, well, I'm right to feel angry because that person did something very nasty to me. And that's not my point. We're just talking about emotional management. So coming directly from anger, reacting directly from that can have very serious repercussions. They can have dire consequences, and you might end up regretting it. Whatever action you take out of compassion, I don't see how you can really regret that. Well, of course, perhaps we can find situations where you would, but I think it's a safe emotion to take action from, especially if you filter it through your intellect. And that means getting curious about your motivations for taking actions, right? It means questioning your thoughts and making sure you're coming from a pure feeling. So just remember, the goal is not to make it go away, to make the feeling or the emotion go away. The point is to recognize that this chemical reaction has got no power over you, I say, but what I really mean is has got no power to make you react. You have got the power not to react. You have got the power just to feel that emotion. And that is 100% safe, because no emotion can ruin you. Like you can't, I mean, your body was made for these chemicals to circulate. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't feel too much of an emotion and have that sort of burst a vein open, right? It's perfectly safe. It's just in your mind that it could be dangerous because of what you make it mean. So the object of the exercise is to drop from your mind into your body and then telling your subconscious about the experience so that it can get familiar with the feeling and no longer fear it. Because if your subconscious fears feeling a feeling, it can set in with this fight or flight or freeze response. And this is not where we want to be living our life from, right? So what you can also do is, when you have a feeling, you've got a feeling, you're aware that the anger is there somewhere, you can just have it be there. You can imagine yourself and your body and your whole person being the driver of a car. So you're sitting in a car, you are the driver, and then you see anger is coming in on the passenger seat. And you say, oh, hello, anger. Yeah, you're welcome to come along. You can be in the car, but you can't be in the driver's seat. I'm in the driver's seat, and I am both feelings and mind. We also say that when feelings are high, the intellect is low, and when the intellect is high, feelings are low. So anger can come with you into the car, but you stay in control. So you're aware that anger is here. You're not making it go away. You know that it's coming with you for the ride. It will be there, and that's perfectly okay. Well, let's take another example, which is perhaps one of the major blocks in all our lives, and that is fear. The fear of something. Like we stop ourselves from doing or saying or achieving or feeling something for the fear of the consequences. And we could be, again, assigning meaning, like what will people think, and what if I feel disappointed, and what if I don't succeed, and we can fear so many things. And what I've learned, and which has really been such a powerful exploration for me in my life, and which has allowed me to achieve everything I've achieved in my life. And when I say everything, I mean major things. I mean, I started off in Denmark. I wanted to play the harp. I started playing the harp and decided to go to music college in London, which I did. I then went to music college in Paris, I've started my own business. I live in the south of France now. I mean, I've done so many things that have been so fraught with fear. And people look at me and say, oh, you're so lucky, you just don't feel the fear. Well, I don't feel as fearful as I used to, but I can say it's hugely fearful to change countries, not speak the language, and make a life for yourself there. It's hugely fear-provoking. But I saw at an early age how I could actually have the fear come with me, like the fear could be in my car, but I would be in the driver's seat. So I'm not letting fear make the decisions. The fear is there. I'm aware that it's there, but I'm making the decisions and I'm not basing them on fear, right? If I base my decisions on fear, I would never have got up the courage to move to London and then to Paris and then to the south of France. I would never got up the courage to put on international shows. I would never have the courage to perform on stage. I mean, it's hugely fear-inducive, isn't it? To go on stage and be like the center of attention and say, listen to me. Do you see what I mean? So if we can allow fear to be there, if we can allow sadness or disappointment to come along with us, well, what could be stopping us then? Really, what could be stopping us? And that's really my next exercise. So if we move on in my workbook to the next page, I want to just share this quote. I don't know whether it's a quote or maybe I'm making some of it up, but I like to think that everything you ever wanted is right on the other side of the feeling you're attempting to avoid. So accepting to feel the feeling of, I don't know, whatever feeling it is, I use this fear, but it could be annoyance. It could be boredom, right? Could be anything. If you're willing to feel that, then nothing is stopping you. And even I would go so far as to say that the feeling could even open the door to what it is you really want. So I was willing to feel the fear and move to first Britain and then France. I'm just taking those two examples because they're so concrete, and I'm sure you can appreciate that it's quite fearful. So stepping through that fear is what allowed me to get to my next level. It's what allowed me to expand. It's what allowed me to design the life of my dreams. It's what allowed me to evolve. It's what made me the person I am today. Isn't that wonderful? So really, all it takes for you to do anything you want in life is just to tell yourself, I'm willing to feel whatever feeling comes along with it. So I'm willing to feel shame. And I think there's no feeling worse than shame. But really, I am willing to feel the shame of not succeeding. And when I'm willing to feel that, it's no longer holding me back. So I can say, well, come along, shame, no problem. I used to have huge body shame, huge. But I just said, okay, just step in for a short moment, all this shame, just step into my car, right? I'll take you along, but I'm making the decisions. I'm making the decisions about what to wear. I'm making the decisions about how I want to feel about myself. I know you're there. I haven't forgotten you. I know you're there, but I'm deciding, right? I'm deciding for myself. So really, I was able to lose all the weight. I was able to change my self-image once I was willing to feel the shame. So my next exercise is for you to see what you would be able to do in life or be in life if you could allow yourself to feel whatever is on there between you and what you want. So ask yourself, I believe that if I allow myself to feel fear, I will, and then say what you will. I will be able to get a new job. I'll be able to start my own business. If I allow myself to feel disappointment, I could actually also find love again. I believe that if I allow myself to feel shame, I will be able to dress in loud colors exactly the way I want. And chances are that you won't really be feeling the shame, because just being willing to feel it doesn't mean that you will feel it. It just means that you are taking the risk. You're willing to take the risk of feeling it. Also ask yourself, and that's my second little paragraph, when I'm avoiding feeling, let's say, fear, I'm also preventing myself from starting my own business, asking somebody out. What are you preventing yourself from? And the next stage is, if I was willing to feel the fear, I would be able to move to London, get a new job, start my own business, ask somebody out, build my own house, right? If I was willing to feel the fear, I would be able to speak up for myself. So I invite you, having gone through the whole worksheet here, to commit to feeling anger, fear, sadness, disappointment, to set yourself free. So this is not going to happen in 5 minutes. I'm not pretending that. Yeah, please just admit here that there are no miracle solutions. There really aren't. I know that we like to believe, oh, somebody can fix me. Let me just get a coach and she will fix me, or let me just go to a healer and he or she will heal me. But it's really the inner work with ourselves that we've got to do. Doesn't mean we can't get help. We can, of course, get help from a healer or a coach, a therapist or whatever. That is absolutely available to us, but they can't do all the work. We do the work with the help of, if you see what I mean. It's like you can get help to cook a meal, like you can use a cooker or the oven or whatever, but you still have to do all the putting together of the ingredients, right? And the cooking will be done by the cooker, perhaps, if you see what I mean. We really have to be responsible for this ourselves. And we can be, but that doesn't mean we can't get the help. So I hope you understand what I mean by that. And I really want to encourage you to think of this as long-term, because if you really do this work, I mean, the scope is immense, because nothing will be holding you back, ever, really. You'll be able to do so many things and be whatever you want to be. Just allow yourself to go there for a minute. And I'd love to see in the chat if you want to share about what you would be able or willing to do if so and so and so. That would be very, very inspiring, perhaps for many people, if you would share what is just on the other side of this disagreeable emotion that you might be feeling. I'd love to know. And of course, I'm also here to help. And that is what I said at the beginning. If you want help with this, you can request a session with me. So during this session together, we can see what the feeling is that is really holding you back. Maybe you're unable to identify it. And maybe I can just shine a light on one or more of the feelings that are holding you back. And once you have that awareness, once you see clearly what it is, then you can start to question it, right? You can start to process it. It's really difficult to process emotions if we're not clear on what they are. So I can help you see exactly what they are, and I can help you point out in your life where that feeling is holding you back. Sometimes it's really obvious and you're able to see it yourself, but often, I would say most of the time, it's really difficult to see it for ourselves. There is a feeling that we are running away from, and it's often got to do with a specific situation. But the good news is that we don't have to remember the situation. We don't have to cast our minds back into the past to find out why or when, right, this feeling was created, because most likely we once had a feeling that was so scary to us that we're running away from it, and we still are. Even like I'm 56 now and I'm still running away from them. So I need to be always shedding light on them, and that's really much easier for a person from the outside. So during this session, I will show you what feeling or feelings you could be avoiding and how this impacts your life. So we'll have a look at in all areas of your life where this is playing up, where this is preventing you from something. And once you've got that awareness, well, then you can go about changing it. And if you want to go about changing it with me, then I will suggest so at the end of our session. But this consultation is absolutely free, and it will help you whether we continue those sessions or not. But really, right now, your opportunity is to take action. It's to go ahead and book a session, feeling the fear, feeling whatever it is you're feeling. Perhaps you're fearing discovering something that you think will destroy you, but it won't. It really won't. It's a safe session because you won't be taking any action on it that you don't want to take, right? You won't be taking, or you won't be reacting to a feeling and taking action from that place. You'll be safe with me, and you won't be taking any fearful action. So if you take action now, instead of going away and overthinking it, actually with my clients, those who get the best results are the ones who are able to take action, not being certain of the next step, not knowing what will come next, not needing to control all the 150 steps that are later, just this one first step. And if you're unable, if you can't have yourself make that first step, just ask yourself, well, what is holding me back? What is the feeling that's holding me back here? So it's a feeling and a thought. And for some people, it's easier to access the thought than the feeling. And accessing the thought that is holding you back is just as good, because we can work with that. So during the session, if we find it difficult to access all your feelings, then we can certainly access some of your thoughts and start questioning them, right? So once we question whatever we're thinking, whatever we're feeling, once we stop believing that this is just like once we stop this fatalistic attitude, once we claim back our power and say, I can't control my feelings, I can't control those chemicals in my body, they're there, I can't change them. What we can control is our thoughts around them and what action we take on them. So that's always in our power. So if we just say, oh, I can't control anything, that is not true, because let's just look at what we can control and let's pinpoint exactly what that is. We can change our thoughts, right? I've got a process for that. I'd be happy to show that to you when you come to the consultation. So my intention is that you see just what is possible. What is possible once you create awareness around your feelings and perhaps thoughts, what you create awareness around that, what you can choose to do, how you can choose to no longer have it affect how you live your life, accepting them along with you till they just dissipate. Because I gave you the image of taking anger with you in the car, taking frustration, disappointment, or whatever, in the passenger seat, so you being the driver. So once you accept them into your car, you will also find that at one point they just leave. They just leave. You don't, oh, that's gone. They've gone. They're no longer there. So I don't have to buffer against them anymore. But they came along with you on some of the trip, and at one point they just got off. And that leaves space. That really leaves space for some other feeling to come in. And once you're really good at being with your feelings, allowing them in, you can call in a different feeling. You can call in a feeling of joy or gratitude or contentment. And a feeling I can always go to is satisfaction. That feels so good. So once you learn really to be with your feelings, once you start feeling safe, feeling your feelings, what would be possible in your life? Just think about it. What is it that you could do if you felt safe? I think this safety piece is a very big piece. So I'd love to know if you can I put into the chat a link to my online scheduler. And also in the email that went out, you have got the same link. And I can include the link in the replay that goes out, meaning that if you are watching the replay, go back to the email and you can click on the link and be taken on to my online scheduler, which looks like this. So I haven't got a lot of times next week, but the week after, I've got a lot of availability, as you can see. Right? So what could happen is that you think, oh, let me just think on this, right? Let me just, I don't know, why should I don't know, is it really worth it? I don't know, do I want to believe this? Just think of that as your mind protecting you. Right? It's protecting you from unknown situations. It thinks that it's dangerous, but you can really tell it, look, it's safe. I will be feeling my feelings with this lady and it's perfectly safe. Right? So tell me if there's anything that is confusing to you around this, or anything, any questions, any comments, any questions about the consultation. I hope I said it's free. And when I offer you a free session, it's really just to get to know you. And it's always fascinating for me to connect with another human being, because I just love seeing how we function. Right? I'm learning so much from speaking with you. Like right now, it's me speaking. And what I really enjoy is speaking with people. So you won't be wasting my time. You won't be owing me anything. I would just really love to meet up with you. And I really believe I can help you. I can show you what emotion you're running away from. And we can see how it would be possible for you to feel that emotion so that you can get to the other side. Just imagine, what would your life be like? What would your life be like if you were no longer held back? So I think that's a lovely thought to leave you all with. So I'm going to stop the recording, and I think some of you might have questions, and you're free to unmute yourself if you want and ask me questions. I'm stopping the recording now. So if you're on the replay, thank you very much for having followed along. I hope to hear from you soon. Let me know if you can't find any available times in my scheduler that are good for you. We can try and find a solution, right? So just respond to the email that went out with this replay, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Bye for now.